The following story has been brought to you by StoriesToInspire.org.
I have a story to tell you that I'm embarrassed about. But boy, did I learn a lesson of what a Rebbe is. I learned many years in Yeshivat Itri, in Yerushalayim HaKodesh. How many years? I thought you'd never ask. I learned there as a Bachur for almost 4 years. And then I came back, I met my wonderful wife, and went back to Israel, married in Kolel for another almost 3 years. So it was almost 7 years altogether. At that time, I was very fortunate and lucky to meet great rabbis. I learned by Reb Michal Zilber, a giant Gaon Adir. I learned by Dayan Fisher, Bechavruta, for quite a few years. And I also learned by my Rebbe, Reb Simcha Schiff, who's known as the Ger Dayan in Jerusalem. Now this is interesting. In the yeshiva where I was, and many of the Israeli yeshivot, the first year you hear shir from the Rebbe, first year Bet Midrash, all the way till Pesach. The second year, shiur, all the way till Pesach. Third year Bet Midrash, you hear shiur until Chanukah. After Chanukah, you are with your Havruta, the entire Seder, from Chanukah to Pesach, and at that point the Rebbe isn't giving shir anymore, but he goes around the room at the end of the Seder, finding out if anyone has questions. So what happens to the Rebbe between Chanukah and Pesach? So generally the Rebbe learns Havruta with one of the students he got close with. I got lucky. Tell you, Borei Olam, the Rachmanuti showed me, in my lifetime, I can write you Megillot with the dio, the ink made out of tears, to tell you the amount of times he saved my life. The amount of times he saved Duvi Bensoussan from all types of stuff. From high school, to Bet Midrash, to years and years later. I'm telling you, Borei Olam is a Rachman. If you want to know what an Abba is, tonight we're talking about a Rebbe, but if you want to know what an Abba is, Avinu Shabbat Shamayim. How many times he saved my skin, and how many times he had mercy on me. So one Zman, the Shiurim ended in Chanukah. My Rebbe, Reb Simcha Schiff, made up with me. We're going to learn Havruta together. We're going to learn from Chanukah Havruta every first Seder all the way till Pesach. To me, it was such an honor that he accepted, that he was willing. Day after day, I would sit there on his bench in front of the Bet Midrash, and I wouldn't give him up. Guys came over to ask questions, I gave him a dirty look. Get out of here! I got him, I'm not ready to share him. Listen guys, when you're learning with when you're learning with a Rebbe, on the caliber of a world-class Rosh HaYeshiva, one of the great Amkanim of Israel, you get a little selfish. I'll admit it straight away. Forgive me. But I was trying to squeeze out every ounce I had of every minute. And every time a guy came up and gave him I gave him the eyes. You know the eyes? Gave him the eyes. Till after a while, people stopped coming. They knew. I have to settle the score with me in the dormitory by lunch. At the end of the Seder, we would finish. I'd write down all my notes. I have today maybe 25 notebooks of notes from those years, of Kimat every Masechet that we learned in those 7 years in Israel. What's amazing to me was, one day, it was maybe, a few weeks before Pesach, at the end of the Zman, I walk into the Bet Midrash, my Rebbe is already sitting in his spot, it's 9 o'clock, it's time for us to start learning Havruta. I'm on my way over to learn with him. And a friend of mine runs up to me and says, Duvi, wait, before you sit down with Reb Simcha, wait. He starts asking me a question about the dormitory, beds, rooms, roommates. That stuff can sometimes get sticky. And we're talking back and forth, but an American with an Israeli boy in the same room. He does use right guard, we were going back and forth. Finally, we get to the end of the sugya. I didn't realize the time. I was talking to this guy 25 minutes, almost half hour. Oh boy. I said, I'm sorry, I got to run. I leave him. I walk up to my Rebbe, Reb Simcha. I sit down on the bench next to him, and he gives me a look. I'm telling you, I started shaking like a leaf. Like a leaf. And he looks at me. And I'm telling you guys, I didn't know what to do with myself. And he says to me, in Yiddish, Heint, me lernt nicht. Today, we're not learning. I'm telling you guys, I didn't know what to do. I felt like a wiltering dandelion. I was crying already inside. I didn't know what to. I was like choked up. Rebbe, I'm your son. I love you. Heint me lernt nicht. My face turned white. I got up shaking. I didn't know what to do. I said, Rebbe, this is Heint me lernt nicht. It's okay. Kibalti. Harav tzodek. Bit gerecht. You're right. I'm sorry. Heint me lernt nicht. Okay. I walked away. Broken. I'm telling you, I was broken. I was so broken, I couldn't go to sleep that night. So I got on a bus, and I went out to the center of town where my Rebbe lives, Rehov Pines, right behind the Merkaz Hotel, Malon Merkaz. Simcha Shif. I come knocking on my Rebbe's door at 11:45 at night. If I didn't have enough for round one, I hear the slippers. My Rebbe answers the door. He's in this magnificent blue, like kapota, and he looks like a king. And I could see that he just came from a sefer that was opened on his table. He was learning. I said, Rabbi, please, can I come in for a minute? Reb David, come rein. I looked at him like, you mean that? Avada, come rein. I come in, he kisses me, he hugs me. Zet zich weg. I sit down. We start talking and learning for an hour. At the end, he says, Nu Reb David, what can I do for you? I said, Rebbe, what can you do for me? I burst out crying. I said, Rebbe, I'm begging you, forgive me. I was so wrong today. And he smiles and he says, Daigit nicht, he tells me. Tomorrow we're learning again. Aber gedenkst, he tells me. Remember, ich bin nicht eure Freund. I'm not your friend. I'm your Rebbe, and I love you. I could cry right now thinking about that. He taught me such a lesson. How much he loved me. And I saw on what he did at night that what he did by day was a hatzaga, just to be madrich me, to remind what it means, respect of a Rebbe, respect of Rabbanim, but at the same time, an underpinning and lining of incredible love. We need Rebbes today who love us, who's madrich us. And this is the old generation. Today, it's all about hugs and kisses. It's all about the love. It's all about the warmth. But more than anything, the minute you're connected to your Rebbe is the minute that Resh turns back to the Dalet. It's all about Ol Malchut Shamayim. It's about direction. Dalet is derech. It gives us a mahalach to live by, but to stay with. Says Borei Olam, if you don't have a Rebbe, look what happened the one moment that Klal Yisrael didn't have their Rebbe. Lech red migdulatecha Why enlarge the Resh and the Dalid? They mixed it up because there was no Rebbe there. For 1 minute on a tiny knetch of the difference between the Dalid and the Resh, a Jew can go from Kabbalat O Malchut Shamayim to El Acher in no time. Let's find a Rebbe. Thank you for listening, gentlemen.
I would like to encourage once again all of you to go onto that website, stories2inspire.org. You will be inspired by the great stories that are right there for all of us.